Moving into a new house was supposed to be a fresh start for our family. We had been searching for the perfect place for months, and when we stumbled upon the old Victorian home nestled at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, it seemed like a dream come true. Little did we know that our dream home would soon become a nightmare. The first inkling that something was amiss came a few weeks after we settled in. Late one night, as my wife and I lay in bed, we heard a faint, rhythmic tapping sound coming from the wall. At first, we dismissed it as nothing more than the house settling, the creaks and groans of an old structure. But the tapping persisted, night after night, growing louder and more insistent. It seemed to come from a particular spot in the wall of our bedroom, a spot that felt colder to the touch than the rest of the room. One evening, unable to ignore the noise any longer, I decided to investigate. Armed with a flashlight, I pressed my ear against the wall, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound. The tapping was irregular, almost like a code, and it filled me with an unease I couldn't shake. As I listened, I became aware of another sound, a faint, whispered voice that seemed to emanate from within the wall. It was too muffled to make out any words, but the tone was unmistakably desperate, as if someone were trapped and pleading for help. I was filled with a sense of dread as I realized that there was something behind the wall, something or someone that needed to be found. With a sense of urgency, I began searching for any clues that might lead me to the source of the tapping and the desperate voice. After hours of fruitless searching, I noticed a small, inconspicuous seam in the wallpaper, a seam that appeared to outline a hidden door. With trembling hands, I carefully peeled back the wallpaper to reveal a narrow wooden panel. As I opened the panel, a wave of cold air rushed out, sending a chill down my spine. I shone my flashlight into the darkness beyond, revealing a hidden room, a room that had been concealed for who knew how long. The room was small and cramped, its walls covered in peeling wallpaper that revealed disturbing, faded images of faces contorted in agony. In the center of the room, I found a rickety wooden chair, its arms fitted with restraints, and a tattered, stained mattress on the floor, but it was the source of the tapping that sent a shiver down my spine. In one corner of the room, hidden in the shadows, I found a crude, makeshift communication device, a small wooden board with a metal rod attached, positioned to tap out messages on the wall. My heart raced as I realized the implications of what I had discovered. This hidden room had once been a prison, a place of torment and suffering. And the tapping I had heard was the desperate pleas for help from someone who had been trapped within these walls. I rushed to share my discovery with my wife, and together, we decided to contact the authorities. The police arrived at our home, and with their help, we carefully removed the restraints and freed the room's captive. The man we found was emaciated, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. He wore tattered, dirt-covered clothes, and his body was covered in bruises and scars. He could barely speak, but he managed to convey that he had been held captive in the hidden room for years, tormented by an unseen force that had driven him to the brink of madness. As the man was taken to the hospital for medical attention, we began to unravel the sinister history of our new home. It turned out that the previous owner, a reclusive eccentric, had been responsible for the horrors that had taken place within those walls. The reclusive owner had been a recluse who had lured unsuspecting victims into his home, where he had subjected them to unspeakable torment in the hidden room. The tapping we had heard had been the desperate attempts of his victims to communicate with the outside world, to seek help and escape their nightmarish ordeal. The reclusive owner had evaded capture for years, his crimes hidden behind the walls of our home. But with the discovery of the hidden room and the rescue of his last victim, justice was finally served. He was apprehended by the authorities and brought to trial, where he was sentenced to life in prison for his heinous crimes. With the reclusive owner behind bars, we hoped that our new home would finally be free from the darkness that had plagued it for so long. We began the process of restoring the hidden room, transforming it into a space of healing and hope, a place where the horrors of the past could be laid to rest. As the months passed, our family settled into our new life in the old Victorian home. The tapping and whispered voices had ceased, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. The room behind the walls, once a place of nightmares, had become a symbol of resilience and redemption. We couldn't erase the horrors that had taken place within those walls, but we could ensure that they would never happen again. And as we looked to the future, we were grateful for the opportunity to turn a house of nightmares into a home filled with love and light, a place where our family could finally find the happiness and security we had always sought.